Yay, there we go. Welcome everyone to another exciting edition of the Magic Sandwich Show. Let me just adjust my camera. This is an interesting show. I think it was the Chinese that said it's a curse to live in interesting times, but it's interesting because I'm obviously in a completely different environment. In fact, I'm in a different country. I'm presently in Florida. And it's also interesting because, of course, this will be, as I'm sure most of you know, our last ever Blog TV show. Blog TV is, as you're probably aware, shutting down. So the question a lot of people have been asking, and we have not yet provided an answer, is where will the Magic Sandwich Show be after this show? And I suspect we have an answer. It's likely to be on Vaughan TV, but we're still looking at a couple of other options. And someone's put, what? Vaughan. It's VAUGHN TV. VAUGHN TV. Vaughan TV. That's it. Fifth Great Ape has got it. But don't worry. By the time this video is posted onto YouTube, we will have made a final decision, and the link will be included in the description. We're particularly keen to have questions this week and callers this week because unless Thunderfoot turns up later on, which he said he may do, it's just Aaron and myself, and anyone that knows us knows that we'll probably end up bickering like an old married couple in a few minutes and have nothing else to say to each other. But for the time being, it's a huge pleasure to welcome our enormous favourite, Mr. AronRa. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. People were asking about where's Thunderfoot and Concordance. I don't know what Thunderfoot is up to at the moment, likely working. Concordance was complaining, was he not, that a handful of young female guests were at his house, kept him up until 5 in the morning? I think that's what he was saying.
What he said was he had 8 pre-teen girls in a sleepover last night. And
okay.
I was absolutely livid, and I immediately sent him a message asking why the hell he hadn't invited me. His response was that I'd be in breach of the restraining order, so it was probably sensible that I didn't. Concordance, obviously recovering from that. Apparently they were up till 5 o'clock in the morning. Goodness knows what they were doing. Well, in fact, I know one thing he did tell me. One of them had fallen asleep, and the others had painted a false beard onto this poor child. But fortunately it was waterproof ink, so it did come off before the parents came to collect them. So that's Concordance. Thunderfoot is working. But exciting news, I suppose, for next week. We'll be doing a one-off special show live from Austin, Texas, where all 3 of us together, there will be myself, Aaron, and Concordance. Hopefully we will be doing a show at about the same time. It might have to be slightly earlier because after that we'll be rushing off to watch the Atheist Experience show live. So very much looking forward to that. What else have you got in store for me when I come to see you?
There is a chance, and I haven't worked this out yet, but there is a chance that we'll be able to do the Magic Sandwich Show without having to change locations to watch the Atheist Experience. We might be able to do the Magic Sandwich Show from the studio of the Atheist Experience. Oh,
that would be fantastic.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah. I feel a bit uncomfortable, though. His experience is such a great show, and we're just, a bunch of amateurs coming together every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
No, but that would be very handy if we could do that. That would be cool.
I will work on that. And we absolutely have to get you as a participant in the show some way. Although you understand that the American Atheist National Convention is fully booked. I mean, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they've got stuff going on all day. I mean, right up until dinner time at 6 p.m. on Sunday. Everything's booked up. So it's I can't even say there's even for certain going to be an Atheist Experience show. There's some uncertainty there.
Well, I mean, if needs be, we can just meet up and do it from a hotel room or something. That's not.
Oh yeah.
But some people are saying a meetup. Well, you can explain what's happening next weekend.
American Atheist National Convention. That's what they don't know about. Okay. Geez, who all is speaking there? I'm drawing a blank at the moment. I've got Richard Carrier, and that's the only one I can think of that's going to be there.
AC Griffing's going to be there.
Yes, yes, and J.J. French from Twisted Sister. And, God, I'm going to have to look up the website to pull up all the names. Yeah, everybody else can look up the website. American Atheist National Convention. It's on my my webpage. There's a number of other places. I'll make sure to put another ad for it on my blog by the time this show is over. But yeah, it's going to be it's probably going to be the best convention of 2013. Some promise for Skepticon, but I think as far as the paid events, this is going to be it. This is going to be the good one, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be in Austin. It's downtown. It's at the Hyatt, and we are just going to eat up Austin and have a great time. I've been so stoked for this. I'm bringing my whole family down, and we're all going to have a great time.
And I'll be there. And
yes.
Other YouTubers, obviously Concordance we've mentioned. I know that Serious Minded is going to be there, and Christine Peace is going to be there. I'm very much looking forward to seeing those two as well. So, yeah, I'll be flying in on Thursday.
You've never actually met Concordance.
I've never met Concordance.
That is a trip. I'm so looking forward to that. There's a lot of things.
Fortunately, I have seen him when his camera is working properly, and he's not a dinosaur. So I've got half a chance of recognizing him. I won't be looking around for what is it? A rapture something or other.
Yeah, yeah, man. I'm completely stoked for this. We've been prepping for it for a good while. It's always a good time in Austin. Always love hanging out with Matt and the ACA. They're really the best people in the movement, so far as I know from firsthand experience. And I absolutely love Austin. I wish I could live there. It's a great time. I don't know what our weather's going to be. At least it's not going to be so stinking hot that I won't be able to tolerate wearing the suits that I'm required to wear representing American Atheists. But it's always good weather. It's always a good time. Yeah, I've got a list of the speakers, the events, because I understand there's a number of schedules out there and they're constantly updated, and what American Atheist has provided for me, that this one is supposed to be the most updated and the most accurate. And it has. On Friday, the event more or less opens with myself and Jamila Bey. We bring on David Silverman and Eddie Tabash. Shortly thereafter, we have Pete Stark and J.J. French of Twisted Sister. We got Margaret Downey, Ophelia Benson. Let me just jump through some names here. Frank Zindler, Edwina Rogers, Richard Carrier, as I mentioned, Dale McGowan, and then J.T. Eberhard for dinner. And then we have the entertainment is Graydon Square and a comedy show featuring Blair Scott and Linda Lowell Jensen. That's just Friday. Saturday, it seems even more booked up. Catherine Stewart, Matt Dillahunty, and Greta Christina, and I'm just jumping through some names here. It's a long list, and I could probably post this, I think, on my blog. I'll just have to get permission because I don't know if it's been...
Well, if you say it's all booked up, I mean, you know, you've not even got me a ticket for the event, so I'm just going to be standing outside selling pencils from a cup.
I do have one small problem with us doing our show at the regular time, and that is that at 3:45 on Sunday afternoon, when we would normally be doing the show, I'm required to be on stage to introduce some gorgeous Romanian blonde.
Ah, she needs no introduction. But of course, yes, she's going to be there, and also the absolutely wonderful Seth Andrews of the Thinking Atheist. He'll be there. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I do like Seth. He's a lot of fun.
Yes, Seth is another one of those people that I consider a real, genuine person.
Yeah, somebody, just going back to the issue about Ustream and the other sort of like potentials, and someone said Ustream has ads all the time. I just simply don't understand why people see adverts if they don't want to. If you use Firefox and an add-on called AdBlock Plus, you will never ever see another advert in your life. I've been using it for years. I think it's much better than Internet Destroyer. I just don't understand why everyone doesn't do it. The Fifth Great Ape would like us to discuss Lawrence Krauss, his debate with Hamza Sortzis, and him walking out, but regrettably walking back in again. Aaron, What do you know about it?
I have to confess that I haven't had a chance to see that. I've been really inundated. So you're going to have to explain to me what had happened there.
Oh, right. He'd had this debate with Hamza Sources lined up, and I think the title of the debate was one of Hamza's typical ones, which explains things best, Islam or atheism. It was, you know, one of these type of debates. And I think it was ticket only. And prior to the event, which was held at the University College London, the UCL got wind of the fact that Hamza Sources, or more accurately, his organisation, AronRa, were planning to segregate by sex the audience. So women would be segregated from the men. And then they were approached about this, and they were told no, or they said, no, we're not going to do that. Obviously, working from a higher authority than the regulations that the UCL imposed upon them, when it came to the evening, that's exactly what they tried to do. Lawrence Krauss was sat on stage and noticed some sort of altercation taking place. There was a man who was trying to sit amongst the women, and he was being encouraged not to do so, and Krauss went over to find out what was going on, and realized that the segregation was taking place, at which point he picked up his bag and walked out, hastily followed by representatives of AronRa, who said, oh no, it's all right, we'll sort it all out, and we won't do it again, and blah, blah, blah. And on that basis, he came back. I think it's unfortunate, but the wonderful thing is that a few days after that, the University College of London posted on their blog site or their website the fact that AronRa are now banned from the UCL and not welcome back. They won't be let back because of the fact, as I say, they sought to breach UCL's non-sex discrimination rules by segregating the audience on the basis of sexuality. So
now there's something that the fifth grade ape just said, that Dawkins called and warned him personally. Fifth grade ape, could you clarify who did Dawkins call and what was this warning? What do you know about that?
Dawkins posted somewhere on his site that he had got wind of it and told Krauss about it, which is, I suspect, why Krauss was looking out for it. So yes, he had warned him, and Dawkins explained pretty much what I've explained, except for the banning by UCL. And it was his sentiments as well that he thought Krauss should not have come back in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just don't think you should have had the debate, because it's not a debate, is it? It's just a platform for Hamza to spew out his bastardization of William Lane Craig arguments with the Islamic twist on it.
Yeah. Well, we've also, we've had direct conflict with Hamza Sources a couple of times. He's one of those people that he's really, I don't understand how he gets on television as often as he does. He's not deserving of all this attention. He tries to put himself in situations where he can meet prominent people and then pull himself up by their bootstraps, like his confrontation with P.Z. Myers in Dublin. Where what he tried to do with P.Z. Myers was insidious. He tried to invite P.Z. Myers into their car. They're going to take him to an undisclosed location and subject him to these debates from these other Islamists, wherein P.Z. has no transportation and has no escape of his own. They're going to take him to this other location, and he can't get out, and he has to listen to whatever the hell they're saying. At the moment that I stepped in to invite Hamza onto our show, The Magic Sandwich, was specifically to offer P.Z. Myers an escape from what Hamza was trying to do.
And he did come on.
Yeah. And then told us that we should all have our heads chopped off because that would be the merciful and painless thing to do.
Well, he didn't quite go that far, but he did say that beheading was acceptable because, in his words, at least it's painless.
Well, he said that is an appropriate means of punishing apostates. And, most of us, most atheists are people who once held religious beliefs. We all walk away from that as apostates. So we all deserve to have our heads chopped off because that's the civilized and moral and godly thing to do with people who have a differing opinion.
But it's the religion of peace. Don't forget.
Well, you become quite peaceful when your head comes away from that. Yeah, that episode when Hamza said that, it was like gloves off, and we just all charged into him. And
it was one of those shows that I think we could be fairly criticised for, though, because he has the ability to frustrate and irritate people, and I think there were all three of us, if not four, did become very irritable and did start interrupting, and it did end up in a slightly unseemly...
I become irritable when people want to chop my head off. I'm funny that way. I mean, I enjoy a close shave, just not all the way through the vertebrae, please.
So what else has been happening with you then, Aaron?
Oh, I've been trying to work on presentations and upcoming events. I've got quite a lot going on. I recently did a convention, which I haven't got the video for it to put it up yet, but I did a convention for the National Atheist Convention in San Francisco, California, which was a really great trip. And let me see, what else did I do more recently? Let's see. We've got there was the Texas Secular Convention prior to that, and then we have there was the Humanists of Houston. I did a presentation there talking about how dinosaurs didn't really live with men and all the frauds that people have to come up with in order to promote that idea, like Carl Bob making up all of his little handmade man tracks that he puts with dinosaur footprints to try to make it look like the world's only 6,000 years old and humans walked on trilobites and things like that. Upcoming, after the 50th anniversary convention, American Atheists, I've got another talk at the Secular Student Alliance, and then I've got a debate that I'm kind of excited about that's going to be going on in, I think it's, what date is it? That's going to be, okay, there's Reason on the Bio. I'm going to be in Baton Rouge in mid-April. Okay, here it is. It's May. In early May, I have a live debate, my first ever one-on-one live, two people at a podium with a moderator debate, and it's going to be in a high school in a little tiny town called Lufkin, Texas. And I'm really looking forward to this. They wanted to put me with, I think what happened was that there was a high school that wanted to do this debate on creationism versus evolution, or they just wanted to do atheism versus, Christianity. I would prefer to call it atheism versus theism, but that's, of course, in small town Texas, it doesn't translate that way. So they decided that they were going to ask me for points to discuss, and it would appear that somebody decided, well, why not just have him? Instead of asking him questions, just bring him down and have him do it. Well, if they're going to have me debating on one side, well, they can't have another high school student, so they decided to get a minister. And at first, there were a handful of ministers, from what I gather, there was a handful of ministers fighting over each other about which one was going to debate the atheist in this high school thing. And then they started looking up who I was. And all of a sudden, all of the ministers that were going to debate me backed out. And they decided that they needed to have a professional apologist. And I don't know who they got, but the professional apologist started looking at me too. And at this point, they had moved it out of the high school venue that was going to be doing during class time. And then they decided to make a media event or like a town event out of it, because we're talking about a really small town here. So they wanted to have news cameras and everything. They wanted to have adults participate. So they made it I think it's a Friday night event so that grown-ups can participate too. So it's me debating this professional apologist in this high school in a town that is so religiously extreme that they still have Christian Scientists where they still argue against medical treatment instead of prayer, where they preach where they preach that dinosaurs never existed. This is the kind of environment where I'm going to be debating.
I think it's a sort of environment that you're going to get lynched at, isn't it?
It does sound a bit like that, doesn't it? The topic of the debate, they raced around a bunch of things, and I know that it always turns into, no matter what the debate starts out as, it always turns into morality, the source of morality. And honestly, I think I'm probably the last guy any minister wants to argue that subject with, so that's the one I jumped on. So that's what it's going to be.
Morality.
The source of morality. And now here's the thing: they did this bill, they did this presentation. Now they've got it as a weekend event, and it's a town social event where they're going to have the TV news and everything. And then they've called in a professional apologist to debate me, and now he starts figuring out who I am, and he backed out. So now they've got.
Now you're going to be talking to without an opponent.
We don't know. They've got the venue, they've got the time slot, they've got the bills and presentation, they've got everything ready to go. Now they just need to find someone willing to debate me, and I just think that's delightful.
Well, give Hamza a call. I'm sure he's.
Wouldn't that be great to get an Islamist to debate me in that environment in South Texas? It would be a toss-up. Which of us get lynched?
Yeah, that's true. It might, yes.
And a number of people in the chat are making a predictable suggestion, and no, fortunately, it's not my choice in this. I wouldn't choose Mr. B under any circumstances. I don't believe that this man needs a debate forum. I think he needs I think he needs a sedative. I think he needs Thorazine and probably a jacket with really long sleeves in a nice soft-walled room. But I don't get to choose who I'm debating. That's what I'm really excited about. It really doesn't matter to me. I really couldn't care less. It really doesn't matter.
Well, whilst we're waiting for people to join us or send questions, let's pick up on that topic, because I think it's an interesting one, and I think again it's one where the religious argument seems to me to be incredibly weak. But let's start with, just in general terms, how you put your case. Just a couple of sentences and compare that.
No spoilers from me.
Oh well, let's hear how the religious people put forward the argument. There's such a thing as a God. God has created objective morality. Without that God and without that objective morality, we wouldn't have any idea how to behave. I think that's it in a nutshell, isn't it? Except,
of course, that the objective morality is subjective according to the God and his opinions, and the double standard that anything that God does.
I'm only playing. Don't have a go at me. But yeah, that's their position, is it not?
I'm sorry. One of the biggest problems that I'm going to have in this debate when it finally happens is just not eating the guy. Yeah, that's it. Just trying to remain civil is going to be my biggest challenge, because this is an issue that I get an emotional charge out of, having listened to nothing but volumes of lies from theists from the entirety of my life. It's a little annoying when they go to play the high ground, when they're responsible for so much rampant evil, and when their Bible is responsible for so much rampant evil. When they want to take this book and they want to call it a moral guide, and they want to teach it to children, what in the Bible is worthy of teaching to children? This is a horrific compilation of criminality. This is not something that you can't call this a moral guide. These are things that would not be sane or humane or legal or ethical in any nation in the world. I mean, you can't behave this way. And yet, like I said, there's this double standard. If God told you to do these heinous things, then you can commit any unspeakable crime you want and be completely justified. Why is it any other case? Why do we even have laws? Why does God make laws and then tell you to break them? Thou shalt not kill. Oh, Moses, go ahead and kill that guy. It doesn't matter. It's complete nonsense. To call the Bible a moral guide is to ignore all of its contents. And I think that humanity has another system that is far more objective and far more reasonable, and that isn't full of rampant insanity and criminality. And I have not prepared anything that I intend to say at this debate, but I have a whole lot of novel ideas, and I'm really excited about doing it. This is a subject that I'm completely on about, and I can't wait for it to happen.
The problem I have with their claim to objective morality is that it seems to be limited to an extraordinarily small field of activities. Basically, in the Christian faith, the Ten Commandments, which are so, well, the first four you can forget about altogether, but the others are so blindingly obvious and miss out some things that I would have thought were quite important, such as rape, slavery, paedophilia, that sort of stuff. So are those objective morals still floating around in the ether but just haven't been evidenced in the Bible? Is this their claim? I just don't know.
What I love about the Ten Commandments is you have this story wherein God tells Moses to prepare these stones, because while God can wiggle his nose and poof everything out of nothing in an instant, he needs rock carvings to be done by somebody else for him. And everything has to be done in secret, and he has to deal only one-on-one with the craziest, most incredulous person that he can find, only in the most remote situations, and whatever that guy comes up with has to be contradictory, has to be nonsensical, and it has to be something he could easily have devised entirely on his own without any divine intervention. And so Moses comes down with something that God told Moses to write, right? So Moses comes down and he brings the Ten Commandments, and we know what the Ten Commandments are. Well, they don't call them the Ten Commandments. They're these commandments, right? And he brings them and he says, to hell with you guys. These are the things that God himself told me to give you, but I've decided you don't deserve this information. So he smashes them. Then God says, prepare another set of stones, and this time I'll write them myself. And by this time we're in Exodus 34. Now if you list in this time, in Exodus 34, the Bible says these are the 10 Commandments. Because in Exodus 20, they don't say that they're the 10 Commandments. They don't say that until Exodus 34. And now if you notice, the first one is the same as in the previous set. The second one is the same as the previous set. But the other 8 are completely different. There's no similarity at all. And this is the one that includes the one where thou shalt not boil a baby goat in its mother's milk. These are the things God wrote himself. And these are the ones where God said that he was going to write exactly the same commandments that were on there before. That's what it says in Exodus 34, that these commandments will be exactly identical to the ones that were in Exodus 20, only the first 2. Everything else is completely wrong. You have 1 or 2 commandments in the original set that are worthy of note. Only a couple. They don't exist in the second set, and these are the ones God himself said he wrote. So if God wrote the Bible, then God wrote the 10 Commandments, and they're the second set, the ones that say that you must keep the feast of the leavened bread, and you have to observe all of these ancient Hebrew holidays, and you can't boil a baby goat in its mother's milk. These are the things that God thought were of utmost importance to share. Not coveting, not killing, not lying, no.
And again, another classic he left out. Another classic he left out was rape, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. There's no place in.
But my point is this, Owen. Would it not be an argument that they might advance, saying just because it's not in the Bible doesn't mean it isn't an objective moral value that God created? It's just he didn't bother putting it in writing.
And then God lays out all of these other laws for how you can rape and get away with it. When you rape someone and she doesn't happen to be married to somebody, okay, good. Now you're not going to be killed. If you rape somebody who isn't married, then she's yours. She belongs to you. She is to submit to you. You get to marry her, and I can't remember if her father pays you 50 shekels or if you pay 50 shekels to her father, but notice that the timeless and unchanging God of all eternity has to deal in a financial system from Bronze Age Palestine. Okay, we don't have any kind of economic adjustment for any other nation. We has a set price. And by the way, when in Exodus 27, God lays out the price list for slaves, we find out that young women are half price. You can get them for 10 shekels where a male slave costs you 20. Frankly, I could see the bargain in filling up my house with young female slaves over a handful of guys that you can't trust.
But as I say, I just think they might get around that and say, God's created these things and created a challenge for us to determine what these objective morals are, which is why we're always on a search to understand God's mind. And you will say, oh yeah, well, why does God have to do it that way? Well, God just works in mysterious ways, and if he spelt it all out for us, it would make it too easy. Life wouldn't be a challenge. And life has got to be a challenge to make it have any value.
Yeah, God works in delirious ways that don't make any sense and that which contradict themselves constantly because he's constantly working against himself. God is a spiritual being that has no body and no man hath seen him. Yet, in earlier chapters, he has to hold up his hand so that Moses can't see his face, and he has to turn his head so that Moses can only see his backside. But God doesn't have a body, and no man hath seen him, except for all the people that the Bible mentions who have seen him.
Well, he makes quite a few appearances in the early chapters, doesn't he? Sometimes in odd forms, like a burning bush. But I mean, since then, he's sort of like slowly drifted away from public life, and now appears so infrequently. One could almost say it's like he never existed at all.
Oh yeah, well he still does exactly what he always used to do with respect to only visiting the least credible witness available.
Normally, when they're alone, when they're either very ill or in a very hot, dry place where they're sort of like delusional, and then he
always tells them to do something that is utterly insane. And there's one other consistency, which I love this about the Cult of Dusty when he brought this up. And if you haven't seen the Cult of Dusty's examination of the Bible, it's not only is it hilarious, it's dead on. You've got to see this. This is beautiful. What Cult of Dusty observed, and what I had observed from reading it, is if you were charged by God to do anything, then, and this is probably the most accurate thing about the Blues Brothers, you remember how they were on a mission from God, and how did they end up? They end up with everybody against them, everybody's chasing them down, and then they all end up in prison, right? So this is exactly what happens to God's followers. If you are doing what God told you to do, then horrible crap happens to you. You were sent out to do a mission which is ridiculous, that God could easily have taken care of or prevented on his own without any effort at all, but he sends the least credible person with the least ability to do so, and he puts great adversaries on them, and when that isn't enough, then God says, okay, well, like in some cases you have this great plagues that he visits down, and then Moses talks to the Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says no. Why? Because God has hardened Pharaoh's heart. So what you have here is you have a God who exists on both sides of the chessboard. He's playing both pieces against themselves. And whoever he sends out on his special mission always gets shit on. And the people who love him best are the ones that endure the worst punishment, like Job, for example. And then the people that God thinks are the greatest people are the ones who molest their own children or get molested by their children. I'm talking about Lot and Noah here. And who end up cursing their own kids, and they're drunkards, and they offer their daughters to rape mobs. These are the people God thinks are the only people good enough to save. God has a very strange objective morality.
I have to say the account of Moses and the Pharaoh is just one of the most bizarre, cruel exercises that God has ever taken part in. I mean, as you say, he's playing both sides of the board. I mean, he sends Moses, says, go and ask the Pharaoh for this. But I can tell you, before you ask him, he's going to say no, because I've told him effectively to say no. So Moses goes along and the Pharaoh says no. So then the first of the plagues comes along. And God says to Moses, now, go and ask him again. But don't worry, he's not going to say yes, because I'm going to make him say no. And this goes on. And it goes on. All the plagues come until the final one where God, even though he knew that the Pharaoh was going to say no, then kills the firstborn, every firstborn in the land. I mean, how sick is this?
Yeah, and what is it about killing babies? Anytime the omnipotent God can't get mere people to do what he wants them to do. And what's the hardest thing that God wants anybody to do is simply to believe that he exists without reason. Now, he'll give you reason in the form of hearsay from ancient stories that we know are bullshit, that we know didn't really happen. This is the evidence that he gets. And this is supposed to be worthy of the testament. And the ultimate judgment, again, becomes whether you believed that nonsense over your own rationality. You have to give up your sanity in order to believe this. And at some point, I think the criteria actually spells that out. that you have to forsake family, you have to forsake all your worldly goods, you have to destroy everything about your own life in order to believe utter nonsense in order to get the prize at the end of this tunnel.
Well, I'm going to move on.
Just I gotta pause. Okay, can you hear me?
Perfectly, yes. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing this morning?
We're doing well, except Aaron's camera seems to have gone on the blink. Are you still with us, Aaron? Or
Yeah, I'm just trying to sort out the camera problem. Mr. Mimms, have you and I only met on the show, or did we also meet in real life?
No, we've only met on the show. You probably met one of my cousins if you've been in the South. I understand that my biological father really liked to, spread his seed. So.
I was actually not thinking about your face. I was thinking about your name. That name is familiar. And, have I only seen it here, or did I meet you at a convention somewhere, something like that?
Oh, you will eventually. Once I finish my military contract, I really would like to meet all of you in person and really try to not really obtain the fame that you all have, but to get my name out there for others to see, and I guess be an inspiration to those hiding in the closet, because there are so many closet atheists, especially in the African American community, that they feel that there's no one out there to connect with, and I really want to get rid of that. But that's not what I wanted to talk about here. I wanted to talk about the Stephenville rape trial and how our good American Christian culture has crafted this idea that these males could just somehow come across this young woman who was drunk and their penises accidentally slipped into her, but they had such promising futures, and that this harlot who took advantage of them while she was drunk, and it's just a travesty. And it really showed in our American media how broken we are as a society when we blame a drunk girl for being raped by two men twice her size.
I don't know what that psychology is, because at the same time, I forget what country it is, but there was another girl that was raped by her uncle, I think 100 times or so, and then she is to succumb to 100 lashes as punishment for being raped. And obviously we're talking about an Islamist culture there. I don't know what it is that pervades both cultures that they get this kind of an attitude. It's beyond me. I'm mystified by it. And I've read posts about the two boys that you're talking about where people have blogged or commented in tweets or what have you that the most disturbing one was they just did what normal, healthy kids would naturally do. You find you have a drunk girl incapacitated, you're naturally going to do that. In what reality is that in any way justified? And then there was a poll that was done after that asking when is rape justified? And it asked a series of questions, and it gave the percentages both for men and for women. And the remarkable thing was, asking the question, when is rape justified, seems to imply that there is a time when it is justified, because even when you look at the female answers, you never get a zero, that it was never justified. If she had led him on, if she had him sexually aroused, if he paid a lot of money for the evening, things of that sort. Under these circumstances, even women were saying that rape was justified in those circumstances.
I just ask, I don't know much about this case, but just on that one issue, when you say justified, you mean justified or or something that could offer a defense?
Well, let's say excusable.
No. Well, I'll give you one example, see where we get with this, and please don't harangue me, I'm just playing devil's advocate. The issue of consent, let's say a sexual act commences perfectly consensually, and then halfway through the woman decides that maybe she's not too happy with this. Is it realistic to expect a man immediately to stop? Or if she says, oh, you know what, I've changed my mind, or shouts out no, because quite often shouting out no can have quite the contrary meaning in a sexual activity.
There's obviously not going to be a black and white answer here because of the games that are often played as part of coitus. I mean, there's some role playing that goes on, and it's difficult to determine when you're already in the act, when things have taken that turn. You know, I mean, if I have a way of perceiving that, hey, she's really not into this and she's serious, I will stop that moment. But I mean, when you're in the act, because of the ways people sometimes behave and they sometimes want to role play, it's sometimes hard to tell. But
I have to say that example seems to be far off the case that Alfred was discussing, which I simply don't understand.
Yeah, we're talking about somebody that, as I understand it, was already passed out and never had an option to give a yay or nay, and it just didn't matter. And so here we have people who are utterly callous because they're doing texts on it and they're taking pictures and they're sending it out to their friends, and for them it's a great joke. And so this is why I have absolutely no empathy for their situation.
I guess they must be religious because it doesn't say anything about not raping in the Bible, so they obviously thought they weren't doing anything wrong.
Oh no, they were good Christian boys, and that's what some of their friends. That's what some of their friends even quote. You know, they're good. You know, they're good students. They're good Christian boys, and I'm like, well, as a good Christian, they should have paid 50 shekels to the father. Traditionally, I mean, just like you mentioned earlier, people don't actually read that thing. It's amazing how much they quote it and want to defer their morality, but don't realize that if they were actually good Christian boys, they would have had those 50 shekels even before the party because they already knew what could go down. And it's sad. And that study, I think it was done at the Jade Goodchild School, and it had the yes answers for male and female. And in one of those, I do remember what you're talking about, Aaron, because I actually read that a few days ago, and I found it so strange that none of the females had a 0% for yes. They too found that it was acceptable in certain cases. It was by far, as compared to males, I think 95% of the yes were for males. Let's say 53% of males said yes for this one, and maybe 38% of females said yes. But there was one where it was close. It was really close. It was almost 50-50. Males and females found that this one scenario was acceptable for rape, and that is if they were engaged actively in sex, that it would be okay to rape. I mean, I'm paraphrasing more or less from the actual question, and some of you can look up this study. I want to say Jade Goodchild, and that's the name of the school, and that's shocking that we live in a society where it is okay. And of course, the underlying problem is that there should not be any justification. Your penis doesn't accidentally slip into a female. You don't just fall in there. It's not how it works, but people want to make it seem that way.
Yeah, no, I'm assuming that if you or I were to have taken that poll, that both you and I would have written zeros all the way down, that it is never acceptable, okay, under any of those circumstances. But the fact of the poll is that we don't fall into the 38% that answered that it was okay. You know, and so that's the alarming thing, and it's difficult for me to understand how a man can think that way, but it's even more shocking to me when I see that the women answer this way. That I've no explanation for that. That's bizarre. Now the percentages are always lower, but they're never zero, and they're never even in single digits, and that I found deeply disturbing. So yes, I agree with you. I think our society is broken in that respect.
What stage of the proceedings is this case then?
Oh, they've already been convicted. Even if both the defendants have both been convicted, as far as I'm tracking, and that even though both have apologized to this girl in open court, their fathers are still saying that they are innocent. Both boys have openly apologized now. They have accepted responsibility, but their fathers are still, for some reason, trying to promote this idea as it's just some act. A I guess magically fell into that girl.
I have to say I don't think that they've accepted responsibility at all, because far too often when you see these kinds of crimes committed, there is no sign of remorse until the guy gets caught. Now, I have had to divulge things that I was never caught doing. You know, if I had wronged somebody when I have not been discovered of doing it, I would admit to that person, "Hey, I did this. I'm sorry. Let me make up for it." That's what you're supposed to do. But these people do not show remorse until they're caught, and they only show remorse because they're trying to get out of punishment. If it doesn't directly affect them, they're not going to give a response. Case in point, we had one of the many Republicans who are so anti-gay marriage, they're anti-gay rights, who advocate that violence is okay against gays and that should not be classified as a hate crime for the very reasons that it is defined as a hate crime. Okay, one of these people discovers that his son is gay, and because of that he reverses his position. Now he's in favor of equal rights for gays. Well, of course, if it doesn't directly affect him, then he's not going to have any empathy for anyone else's situation, and that's the problem. They don't have any empathy for any other situation. They have to have a punishment or they're not going to behave well. And that's why they think, I think, I'm being speculative, why they think atheists should run amok raping and pillaging everybody because we don't have a God to tell us not to. When we think that if that's the only reason you're not doing that, well, then you go on and believe that because we don't need your kind of people in society.
Yeah, it's scary that kind of dichotomy that they want to promote, and I've heard this many times, even when talking to my own family members, and it's sometimes scary that, you know, about this whole concept of a moral spectrum without having a God. But then I can bring up stuff like the Steubenville case. Like, these boys were quote unquote good Christian boys that get caught up in this. How many people from a non-theistic background do you see caught up in a case like this? And we don't tout each other's non-belief as a source of our morality or immorality. It's just another label. And that's what I really want to get past, is trying to have that label of Christian also being associated with some sense of higher morality for whatever reason. It's truly disgusting, because as we see, it makes no difference. That's
yeah, and I'm completely with you on there. I mean, why do we have the word good associated with Christian? Just because you believe what everybody else believes and you haven't investigated it and you haven't read the book you yourself worship, what about that makes you good? That's one of my mysteries there.
Are you saying there's no difference between a good Christian and a bad Christian?
I'm saying we need a definition. What makes somebody a good Christian? You make a determination that he's a good Christian. Either
one that doesn't follow the Bible, I suspect.
I would say, yes. Probably a good Christian is somebody who does not follow the Bible, who probably should have read it if he's going to worship it. But once he had read it, he would no longer worship it, and he would follow his own objective morality rather than the authoritarian morality that is established in the Book of Fables that he would have to object to if he's a moral person to begin with.
Exactly. And you wouldn't have to have this set of particular beliefs to back up everything you do. You would be ultimately responsible for yourself. You can't have the backing of your imaginary creature that's going to make everything better. And I think that's also that whole idea of salvation and forgiveness. You can do whatever you want, but ultimately you'll be forgiven. This world doesn't matter. It's almost a kind of a semi-nihilistic worldview, and that's what really disgusts me at the end of the day with a lot of these Christians, is that they care very little about our society and this world. They're so focused on this perceived, like I call it in one of my videos, this perceived golden toaster that they'll receive once they meet their God, that everything else is just fall by the wayside, and it just doesn't matter anymore.
Can I just go back to the issue that you raised? It's slightly off track, but not that much. I was very recently reading about the case in America of Rogers and the EEOC, which goes back to 1971. Case brought for sexual harassment under the Civil Rights Act. And it was a landmark decision.
Lawyer.
Yeah, it was a landmark decision because it extended sexual discrimination to include effectively sexual harassment, long before it had happened in this country. And I must say that on reading it, I thought, well, that's impressive. America were well ahead of us on this. And obviously a country that takes sexual harassment, sexual discrimination very seriously. But from what you've said, it seems that there may be an underlying culture where this isn't the case. I mean, what are both of you, what are your experiences in everyday life, at work and the like, so far as those issues of sexual harassment, sexual discrimination are concerned?
Well, I know that culturally, I mean, you talk about American culture, that we had this colloquialism called "in like Flynn," an old slang term. It meant you can't get in trouble, you're great. And what that was based on was the famous actor Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was the top good-looking man in Hollywood. He had this yacht. He had all the women that he could want. He had one barely legal, one who was not quite of age. And when he went up on charges for this girl, the judge saw pictures of the way that she was dressed on the yacht and dismissed the case, blaming the girl because of the way she was dressed. Now, at some point, now I remember even myself thinking as a young man, when I hear this judgment, and I'm in the family of my peers, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, that's the way it should be. If she's gonna get on the man's yacht, she's gonna dress all sexy, she should expect that this is going to be the reaction." It seems to make sense when you think of it, when it's handed down to you that way. And then,
but Errol Flynn, that must have been a case of a long time ago.
Of course, yes.
I'm sure attitudes have changed. They may have not changed as much as you.
Saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. Carry on.
I heard this more or less as I was a child myself, and I'm hearing this from all of the people that I look to for moral guidance, and they're all saying, "Oh yeah, well this is exactly the way it should be." But then as you grow up, you realize, well, yeah, but if she's, I mean, we are talking about somebody that could have anybody that he wants. We're talking about somebody that has a whole lot of money and power and all like this, and all of these things that are going to influence somebody, and is it an unfair advantage? And I start thinking on another dimension, then I think, then certainly I was capable of at that age when I first heard about this, or that my family was at that time. And, you know, this society does mature as a whole. And I've often said that where I feel that the United States is now where England was, say, 100 years ago. Once upon a time, England was very ethnocentric, very imperial. They were the best damn country in the world. And then it became America. And I would say that England has since matured in many respects. And I would like to see America mature also. It's time for us as a nation to think on a more advanced level. And I'm done with that.
I know in the military, it's all over the news where you have so many superior officers taking advantage of young enlisted soldiers, female, and it's becoming kind of an epidemic where it goes unreported, and you have situations like rape and sexual harassment, but because of this authority figure, you're automatically going to be looked at sideways because you're going against the grain, you're going against the norm, and the military has recognized this. It's no mystery behind it anymore. What happens now is that we have a backlash. We have a sort of we call it now sharps training, sexual harassment. I can't remember the rest of the letters. That's really, it's sad, but we have it every few months.
Well, that policy has obviously ingrained itself in your consciousness.
It is, because it's really, it is helpful. It is really corny to a degree, because you have these training videos and they set up these very droll roles of the male aggressor and a female victim, and it becomes so.
Pardon me, guys. I've got something going on. I gotta handle for a moment. I must excuse myself. Hold on.
Okay.
Do carry on.
I can't remember the rest of the name of the sharp. I probably will later on. But the point is to break away from our American culture bleeds over into the military, and this sense of, well, if she's dressing slutty and she knows she's around soldiers, then stuff is going to happen, or more so that if she sees this captain and she's a specialist and she wants favors, then she's going to go after him in a sexual manner, and she might end up getting raped, or on the flip side, she will say she is raped when in reality that she consented and he did not deliver on those favors. Now, I have been in situations where I've seen uses of this because it's such a knee-jerk reaction to fix this epidemic that females will actually use this and get guys in trouble. You know, reduction of rank, stigmatization, and there's no consequence for it. So it's really a backlash as going towards this, like I said, a knee-jerk reaction from our ingrained ideas that, okay, women are just these objects and that they can be used and abused as how we see fit in our patriarchal society. It's really, I'm not sure how to view it because I was raised the similar way to where Aaron was, where, you know, if the girl was dressed that way, you would even have other females saying, well, yeah, you know, she's dressing that way. What does she expect guys to do? What is, you know, guys are just automatically going to view her as an object. They're not standing up and saying, well, she is a woman. She has rights. She has, you know, her own identity. She is not anyone's object. And it's really, really ingrained in our culture so bad that it's going to take a while for this idea to go away.
Well, it often does take a while, but you're basically saying that Jodie Foster's performance in The Accused didn't do as much as people may have hoped to change the American psyche.
No.
I have to say I'm somewhat surprised by that. I trust Aaron has managed to sort the problem out. As soon as he said, I've got a sort of problem, and then I heard large barking dogs, I was somewhat concerned. Are you all right now, Aaron?
Yeah, it's one of the neighborhood dogs decided that because it's a pit bull that it was able to take on my 3 dogs.
I follow. One of the things that we have a topic for discussion every couple of years, it rears its head, is groups saying, you know, the level of convictions for rape is not satisfactory. It tends to be very low percentage success rate. And they therefore want to, oh lordy, they want to change the law, which I have to say that it always troubles me, because I don't think that you should have, for example, different rules of evidence for rape or different standards of burdens of proof for rape. And part of it is because of something you touched upon, Alfred. These allegations are incredibly easy to make, but very difficult to disprove quite often. So I think some degree of caution has to be exercised. I'm sure I'm going to get hate mail now from people saying that I'm pro-rapists, which is, I must express openly, is not the case. Oh, was our friend Jason kicked out of the room? I wasn't following that bit of the chat.
Oh, now they woke the parrot up.
It's all going wrong.
Tanya.
Just to remind people who may have joined us, I noticed there are a lot more people in the room than there were when we first started. This is our last show on Blog TV, and we're looking for a new home. If you've got any ideas, do let us know, either by PM or call in. We're having a problem with Skype, though, at the moment. We don't seem to be receiving contact requests. So if you would like to appear on the show, send a PM on Blog TV, and I will add you as a contact, and we'll get you on that way. Alternatively, if you just want to ask a question or send me a PM and I'll read out your question, go to the top of the chatters list, click on Magic Sandwich Show, and I'll read it out for you. Aaron.
Yeah, I was just, somebody said that Jason was kicked out of the room, and you can't kick him out. Then he'll start making videos about how he was censored and how we're all completely dishonest and all of that crap. You have to cater to some of these weirdos.
I don't think that him being kicked out or not is going to have any effect on his video output levels. For those that are not familiar with Jason, he has a number of channels. One's called Jason Burns, There's Atheism Examined, I think, is another. He has a propensity to post a large amount of videos. His previous record of 44 in one day was recently smashed on one of his channels. He posted no less than 144 videos in one 24-hour period.
Yeah, I was not aware of this, by the way, when somebody had told me about a video that he had done wherein he was calling me out, so to speak. And it was all over Danny H.C., who, as you know, Danny H.C. was the leader of the Secular Student Alliance, so she should full well know the atheist opinion. And then she comes onto our show willingly, voluntarily, and says that she has changed her mind and she's become a Christian. So Thunderfoot and I are fighting over each other to find out what her reasoning is. And Jason takes that to be that it was a 4-on-1 assault against a young girl. And I can't see it as that. This is somebody that she has she has an answer for my question, and Thunder has thrown in other questions, and I'm fighting with Thunder to talk to her, to try to get something out of her, and she's been very evasive of the answer. So Jason takes the moral high ground. He's going to be her knight in shining armor, and he's going to call me out. So he wants to have a debate, a proper academic debate. Well, I'm not going to debate somebody like this because, first of all, I have rules, I have criteria. I'm not going to debate you unless someone says you represent them. That's basically the rule. You have to be nominated as representative of some collective of people, and then, okay, you want to have a debate, we'll do it. But not just every weirdo from Swindon gets to debate. So this guy, he asked for two things. He asked for a debate and he asked for a dialogue. Apparently he doesn't know what they are. So I said, okay, a dialogue I will do. And so I open up this thing, and on the title I say, Jason gets the debate he's asking for. And then in the text I say, well, he doesn't actually know what a debate is. He thinks any argument that two people have is a debate. Okay, fine, it's not. Because in a debate, you're not arguing to each other, you're arguing to an audience. You're trying to convince an audience. But in a dialogue, you're turned to each other. And that's what we should have. We should have a dialogue between the two of us. And I said that in the text on the League of Reason forums. He said I could host this anywhere I want, so I said, great, we'll do it in the League of Reason. And I wanted it to be a written debate, and I was very specific about why. Because when you get into a live debate, and I know that this guy is a follower of Shock of God, so now I know their tactics are to interrupt, to talk over you, when they ask you a question they think you can't answer, and when they realize you can't answer, then they interrupt the answer to change the subject to a topic they think you can't answer. When they realize you can answer that one too, then they have to interrupt that to change the subject again, because it's all a big word game. It's a way of getting out of understanding what's going on. But when I have a dialogue with somebody, I'm going to try to reach them, and I have to say that when I first encountered Jason, I thought he was not very intelligent, but that he was innocently deceived, perhaps. So, not worthy of debate, certainly, but this is somebody that maybe we could have a dialogue with and I can get him to understand the perspective. However, when I get Jason on there, he flips out because I'm expecting to ask him questions and have him answer them, and he will ask me questions, I answer him, and be like a dialogue. But that's not what he wants to do. He refuses to have a proper discussion wherein, if he says that there's no transitional species, I can simply put up a picture in the forum. I can post illustrations, I can post text, I can post citations and links, and I can speak for myself. I don't have to require that he read anything. I can give him my explanations, he can give me his explanations, and we can understand each other. I told him time and time again, I'm not, you cut and paste articles other people have written in which you yourself do not understand. I'm not responding to those. I'm responding to a person. Talk to me, I'll talk to you, and we'll come to an understanding. But he started flipping out. He started spamming the thing with all these different posts from all these different people, and he was warned repeatedly.
Normally,
and then it was a discussion about blocking him for violating the what's that?
You broke up briefly. Do carry on.
Okay. Well, Jason started spamming this the post with all these different articles from different people, and he was warned repeatedly about that. And it was they were going to block him from the board for violating the forum rules, but it was decided they would not do that because it looked like he's trying to do it on purpose. He's trying to get out of having the discussion by getting himself banned. He has to have some excuse that he can give. So when I asked him to, he challenged me on the point of evidence, and that was what invited me. He said, you can't go on saying that there's no evidence of Christianity because you're a liar. Well, I take a little harsh to being called a liar. So, okay, fine. If I say there's no evidence of Christianity, bring it. Show me what the evidence is. Freaked out.
Do you know what he's done recently? He's posted a video in which he's offered to write an academic paper of 2,500 words, which he'll submit to you for your response.
Here's the thing. I asked him, I said, okay, fine, you want to tell me there's no evidence of Christianity, this is what you do. Just give me the evidence that I need. Like, show me that, and I'd had to explain to him what evidence is and what facts are, just so that there's no ambiguity here. Okay, so show me the evidence of souls, of deity, of supernatural magic, of the supernatural realm. Anything that shows that the mythology in the Bible is any more accurate than the mythology in any other scriptures, show me any of these things. Instead of that, he says, I'm going to write you a 2,500-word academic paper, and it's going to be full of great scholarship, and it's going to be brilliant, and it's going to be full of the greatest minds that ever worshipped Christianity, and you're going to be so low, and you're going to be so ruined, and you're going to be, oh, he is so great, Jason's so much smarter than we are. I'm not kidding. Go to the League of Reason forums, look at the thread. That is literally what he did. He did
go and watch his videos as well. And I'll have a bet with you, Aaron. There's 40 minutes before we would officially end the program. We always overrun a little bit, but I will bet you the first round of drinks in Austin that by the time this program has finished, he has already posted a video on YouTube saying that he was kicked out of the Magic Sandwich Show.
Well, that's why I said you shouldn't do it. You should get him on here.
It wasn't me. It was Tony. Tony had a flight of fancy and
this guy refuses to answer any direct questions. He refuses to have a proper dialogue. He thinks a proper dialogue is one-on-one live. No, peer review doesn't work that way. The scientific community works in posted journals. It's not live one-on-one debate. That's not a proper academic dialogue. And in the dialogue, again, you don't post a paper. If I ask you a question, you do not post a paper which is specifically focused on the subject of the resurrection taken from the evidence of Scripture. No, I want you to show me that Scripture has any value before you start assuming the conclusions therein. But he doesn't. He can't. So what he does instead is he starts accusing me of being a liar for inviting him to a debate, which I never did. So he's lying about that. He calls me constantly. He says I'm a complete, utter lying dishonesty and a charlatan because I never lied to him ever at all. There's not a single case where he can say that I said this and this is not true. No, that didn't happen. I can do that with him because he made a video recently where he offered to give $1 million to anybody that could show categorical evidence of evolution. Oh, well, I've got... Hey, I'm the ace of clades. I got your categorical evidence, and thank you for bringing up that word and using it as a criteria.
His monetary offers have gone up. He started off with a £100 donation to charity for a debate. I think it was either you or... and by the way, so people are familiar with, Jason is the one that can't even pronounce Aaron's name. He calls him AronRa.
No.
This is the level that you're dealing with. But he offered £100 for a debate with AronRa or Thunderfoot. He then offered, I think, a similar amount to Richard Dawkins for a debate at Oxford University. So I don't know where he's got his million from to...
Well, obviously he's lying about having $1 million. So
of course he is. Can I just very quickly, though, say that I was a moderator of a debate between him and Negation of P. And he boasted, made many videos beforehand, saying that he'd done 35 hours work on this debate. His performance and presentation of his arguments was just absolutely pathetic. It was an embarrassment. So I don't want to spend any more time on him. And I've got quite a few questions coming. Just to remind
I have just one thing, because
sure.
I mean I don't like being called out as a matter of honor. Now, I did not realize when I invited this guy okay, I accepted his invitation, and I put the invitation myself to go to the League of Reason forums where we can have a written discussion. The purpose of it being, I'm going to try to reason with this guy. And the reason he wants to do a live discussion is so that he can avoid being reasoned with. That's his whole plan. So what he wants to do is instead of answering my simple questions, he wants to issue this 2,500-word paper, and he does not want me to have a chance to read it. He does not want to have his 2,500-word masterful academic paper ever critiqued. He wants to post it and then argue about it live, face-to-face, one-on-one. He even stipulated that he will argue for hours and hours and hours if need be, and that the winner is not declared by whoever's more accurate. The winner is declared by whoever has a real life to get back to and who does not, and who can say God did it, and that doesn't prove anything, you know, for hours at a time. That's the way he wants to do this. When it comes to a meritocracy, when it comes to bringing the goods, he ain't got it. And when he realized that's what it was going to require, then he started spazzing out. And the reason is because I later discovered that he has a sincere delusional disorder. I obviously this is not a diagnosis, but my observation is that would be my conclusion. I would bet that he has a real.
Well, I think it's unfair to speculate. People can make their own judgments. As I say, he's likely to have made a video about being kicked out before the end of the show. Alfred, would you like to stay with us? I've got a question that you probably would like to contribute to, although I suspect it's directed initially to Aaron, but we'll take you first, actually, because I know what Aaron's views are. This is from Polymath 44, who asks, do you think that people like Benny Hinn, Kenneth Copeland, and Joel Osteen believe what they are saying? Are the prosperity gospel preachers atheists themselves?
Oh yes, some of them actually know. They know it's bullshit, but they know they can profit from it. I'll give you another example. Creflo Dollar, guy who names himself Dollar, obviously knows where the money is. It's quite obvious, and it's become a running joke that his pews are constantly full when he is, for lack of a better term, a charlatan. He really is. They know that this whole scheme is constructed from this theology. Now, I won't say all of them. I'll say a good number of them actually know that it's complete bullshit. Probably a smaller minority actually believes that God put them there to preach this prosperity gospel, but they themselves have to go through many mental jumping jacks and jump through many mental hoops to try and find out and actually convince themselves that they are the ones that need to be in this particular place so that they can preach this obvious perversion of a religion, if you want to even call it that. I hate even calling it religion because it's just a fraud. It's obviously a fraud, and we all can see that, but they can't. And it's really hard to say, because once you start talking about the inner workings of a theist mind, it's completely.
It's a dark and mysterious place.
Up to it is. I can't even find a word. I thought,
in my view, it's obvious
pretty good vocabulary, but I don't have it.
I'm terribly sorry I interrupted you. I was just going to say, in my view, it's obvious. I don't know, apart from Benny Hinn, I didn't recognise the other names, but it's obvious to me that the likes of him and Popoff are utter scam merchants, and they know it. I mean, there's absolutely no way that you can have an earpiece in your ear and be fed details by your wife you then relay to the audience and not know that you're a fraudster. I suspect Benny Hinn's not that much difference, but there must be a grey area in the middle. Where there's some uncertainty, Aaron, or do you not share those doubts?
I live in Dallas. Remember, Dallas has we not only have Kenneth and Gloria Copeland here, but we also had, for a long time when I first moved here, Bobby Tilton. And Bobby Tilton created the first for-profit church when he was dragged into court for tax evasion. And he created his church as the first for-profit church the night before the trial. And he had busloads of his followers come down to see him. And some of them might have had the presence of mind to be disappointed when they realized what he had done. There's a wonderful expose on Bobby Tilton, how he had made tens of millions of dollars a year. He promised that he would send out these mailers like Popov does, you know, where you put your hand here and then you send it back with your financial donation, and that he would put his hand there also, and that he would pray for you, and that you'd have this established connection, and people would send personal letters and things of this sort. And the investigative team that was studying all this found all these personal letters and all of these other things in the trash, and that the only things that were kept were, of course, the checks. And that when I say that they found them in the trash, I mean that they never got to Tilton. Tilton never read these. He's just receiving the money. He never sees the envelopes at all. He has a team of people rifling through these envelopes to pull the checks out and throw the rest away. And it was an obvious scam. One of Tilton's high school friends was talking about how he and Tilton, prior to this evangelical ministry, talked about the greatest way to be rich was to pull exactly this kind of scam and to develop this character that was very emotive and convincing and do this kind of an act. And that's exactly what he did. And he's fantastically rich for it until he finally had to flee the state.
Well, at least he got caught. I mean, Popoff's still going, isn't he? I just don't know what more you can do to expose Popoff.
You have to have some sort of moral accountability, and these people flatly don't have it.
But the public who were ripped off by him, can they not see that what's before their eyes? I just don't get it. As normal, we tend to get a rush of people towards the end of the show, so I'm going to take the next caller. As I say, sending a Skype contact request to us today does not seem to work, but if you PM Magic Sandwich Show on Blog TV, just go up to the top of the chatters list, click on that, send me a PM with your Skype details. I will actually add you, which is what I've done in relation to our next caller, who hopefully I'll be able to bring in just a few moments. Remember what I'm looking for. It's going to be somewhat a change of topic, but again, Alfred, if you'd like to stay with us, I'm sure we'll be interested in your opinions.
And by the way, Alfred, I might want to put you in touch with...
Hi, just one second, Patrick, we'll come to you in just one second. Oh, and just finish what you were saying quickly.
Oh, well, I can actually share this later on, but okay. Alfred, you had people that you were talking about in your community that were looking for an outlet for I guess, black atheists. I have a number of connections here in Dallas, headed up by one Alex Jules. His name is ALIX, and he runs an organization of that sort. If you want to connect with him, I'm sure he's in my Facebook, and that is a unique spelling. His last name is JULES. Look him up. He's been on Ebony. He's been on billboards across Dallas. He's been up against some of the black evangelical preachers here in this town, and he's starting to get onto the speaker circuit. And he's a really great guy. I know him personally. I'd like to promote him as much as I can. And this is what he does, is try to reach out to the black community. So if there are people that are looking for somebody out there, send him that way.
We can chat about that after the show. We'll include the details in the chat box here, Aaron. But let's move on to Patrick. Welcome to the show.
Hello, great to be here.
What are you bringing to the table today?
I have to apologise. I'm sorry if I got rather frantic just to try and get in contact with the show, just because Aaron brought up earlier something I wanted to bring up, and I kind of went, oh God, I really want to get in now. Because my original point was going to be about why the reasons why people believe in what they believe is important. And my example is going to be about this man who's just changed his opinions on whether or not to allow people to have, LGBT people, allow them to have equal rights and so on. Because I've heard people recently, and people that I can respect and have respect for, say that they don't care why he changed his mind as long as he did, which I can't help but feel is incredibly arrogant, because it tantamounts to, I don't care as long as people agree with me. So if his son, the example I think of is if his son came out soon, and said, actually, I'm not gay, I was just trying to make a point. And then that man changes his mind and says, well, my son's not gay, so I go back to my original opinion. He's completely consistent. There's nothing you can say against him, saying, no, you can't change your mind back. You can't do that. You can agree with me for bad reasons, but you can't disagree with me for bad reasons.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good point.
It just frustrates me because I've had similar arguments, you know.
It's a sad thing when they can't, when they have to have something that hits directly home. Well, another good example would be the Westboro Baptist thing. You had this one girl that thinks that the family is completely justified in what they do for everybody else. And then when it happens to one of her friends, well, then it hits home, and now she has empathy for the first time ever. I don't understand why it has to take that. There's a strange noise going on back there. What is that?
Oh, is that me?
Someone's typing, but yeah.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, the other example I had recently, I'm having quite a few arguments with a friend of mine who's an atheist but a Catholic, so figure that out for starters. But just then she sent me messages and something about a church that's refusing in America, that's refusing to do any weddings until everybody's got equal marriage rights. But the article that they were put in didn't go into details why they changed their minds. And again, she says, I don't care why they changed their mind as long as they did. And it's kind of like, well, you know, how do we move forward with any of this then? If we're all going to just be changing our minds for whatever reasons we feel like, you know, I've got a gay son now, or, you know, nobody's coming, like that church could be, their reasons could be, nobody's coming to church anymore. And we've got to change our minds. We've got to change our approach, or we're going to go out of business. You know, if that's their reasoning, then what the hell?
Well, they want to be progressive when it benefits them. If it doesn't like directly affect them, then there's no reason to be a better person. It has to find some sort of profit from it, whether it's, you know, actual currency, or whether it's political brownie points or social brownie points. That's what it really seems to be. And of course, it's not just recently. I've seen this over the last few years. These opponents to any type of equality, whether it's, you know, it's homosexual or female or what have you, once it personally affects them, then it becomes a problem, and then it becomes this issue where they want to try and become just this progressive and socially active individual, rather just kind of their jaded sense of morality that they had before. But it really begs the question, like you said, that their support of this is conditional. It's highly conditional. And should we take them as seriously as everyone else who have always seen society objectively, rather than just this kind of this trumped up position of privilege, or not?
Well, on my first day in Florida, I was reading the Tampa Bay Times, and there was an article in that about the GOP and whether it's likely to change its view on same-sex marriage, and it showed a number of polls that have been taken over the recent years, and many more people are in favour of it now than even only a few number of years ago. And the question is, if they change their policy, are they doing it as a matter of principle, or are they doing it because they realise they're going to lose a lot of votes? And I think there's a parallel that can be drawn, can't there, with the Catholic Church, or a church that suddenly changes its view. They realise, and this is why they won't tell you what the reasons are, I imagine. They realise that they've got to do it to maintain any form of power, as I say, whether it's political or religious, or a combination of both. I just wish they'd have the honesty to say so.
Yeah, with the religion, of course, is that, in my opinion, that if they maintain their principle, stance against homosexuality or slavery or whatever it is, they'll simply go out of business, as many religions do eventually. They just fall away, and it's the ones that, it's like, we've said before about, that's been said before about evolution, that the animals that are here today are the ones that could survive to be here today. The religions that are here today are the ones that have managed to survive to be here today. That's how this works. So if the Catholic Church maintains, it's like some of the high members of the Catholic Church have heard said that they wouldn't mind if it came down to that they've only got 5,000 members, as long as they're 5,000 of true Catholics, because they know what's right, they know what God intends. They don't mind like having everything diminished as long as they remain true to the way. But but then of course they've got the other ones that say, actually, we really should maintain power, and we're only going to be able to do that by changing with the times.
It's interesting when you have all these people that say that they're the ones that know that God has the way. I mean, God is infallible, right? God has this criteria for judgment. He loves us all, and he has this rule set out so he wants to save us all, but he knows that he can't do that, that he can't save everybody. He's going to have vast numbers that don't make it. You know, narrow is the path that will lead to righteous salvation and all of this, because God's method of communication is so amazingly bad. We've got so many hundreds of or thousands of denominations of Christianity, and that's just of Christianity. That's to say nothing of all of the other religions, which where did their inspiration come from? You know, I mean, so, and they're all older. So many of them are older than Christianity. So, I mean, are they all drawing on the same wellspring? I mean, who the hell knows what the hell God wants, assuming there is one?
Yes.
And I'm convinced that a lot of these people, I mean, there are people who really believe, because they really believe that, you know, that they are as certain as that they are right as that I'm right. But there are a lot of others like Peter Popov and Bobby Tilton who know that this is exactly a business, and that belief is an act of will. It's a matter of pretend, and it's what you have to do to make the big bucks.
The only other thing I was going to mention about all this was, like I say, I'm really annoyed and angry about the idea that you can agree with me for bad reasons, but you can't disagree with me for good reasons, because I've heard people say, I don't care why they change their mind about a certain position, be it politics or, you know, religion or anything else. But it's just that if you look at it from their point of view, so if you had somebody who was again who didn't believe in climate change and was against all regulation for climate change and so on, and somebody came on and said, who said, I used to believe in climate change and believe in restriction and everything, but then I heard something ridiculous, like actually it's a massive conspiracy, you know, a massive conspiracy that to take over the world and to put fluoride in the water and whatever. And then you've got, you know, conservatives who actually, you know, saying, well, actually, I don't agree with those reasons, and they're obviously wrong. But we really do want to have a smaller government that doesn't have these regulations on business. So we'll let them on. We won't challenge those kind of crazy ideas. But as long as they agree with me, we'd all lose our minds and scream at the top of our lungs that how dare you do that, and lie to these people and allow them to lie. But then as long as it's homosexual, you know, about LGBT rights or you know, but you know, hopefully there are enough people who want to be just honest and say, if you're an atheist because you hate God and therefore you call yourself an atheist, you haven't thought this through. You haven't had somebody to point it out to you.
I've had exactly that conversation before, where I met this girl that was an atheist who couldn't give me a reason why she was an atheist. I mean, she hadn't read any of the scripture. She didn't know any of the philosophical arguments. She wasn't aware of any of the thinkers of the time. She wasn't really aware of anything. She just didn't believe it, and she didn't have an answer as to why. Okay, I don't have much argument with that, but I would encourage her to have a reason why. If you're going to have a position at all, you should probably have a reason behind it. When people, and this is a better example, when people tell me that they accept evolution not because of any understanding of the facts, but because that's what all the scientists think. Well, then that's kind of authoritarian, isn't it? I mean, you're just believing what you really should make an effort to at least understand. If you're going to say that you believe something, or if you accept something, have an idea what it is. And I would say that the same rule applies across the board. I mean, you're going to tell me that you're this Christian, you believe in God. When I ask you if you've read the Bible and you haven't, I'm thinking, you think that God wrote it and you haven't read it.
But you've read anything else?
Exactly. So I mean,
I have to take issue with you, Aaron, if I may, though, because my understanding of many areas of science is chronically weak and non-existent, including evolution. So a lot of statements I make, are appeals to authority, but I think that it's justified to do so because of the proven track record that it has. But to suggest...
I have to say something. I have to say something to Woden Toad really fast. The only reason that you have to give, because somebody mentioned in the chat that they don't have to give a reason why they don't believe in this toaster on Pluto. There is no evidence for it. It's good enough. Because remember that science doesn't automatically dismiss anything. We only consider that which has evidence for it, and then there's stuff that does not have evidence for it. And if there's no evidence for it, then it is not yet worthy of serious consideration. So all of the toaster on Pluto and the flying spaghetti monster and the teapot, the celestial teapot, they all fall into that category. Go ahead, CPR. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, I just finished. I think that it's fair to appeal to authority on occasions without being able to. I mean, I can't explain, and I never would try to explain in anything other than most rudimentary sense the theory of evolution, because I'd be speaking outside of an area of my knowledge, and that would be wrong of me to do so. But I think that it's perfectly appropriate to appeal to authority on the basis that I can be satisfied that it's got a proven track record. So I don't. You were somewhat dismissive of appealing to authority, it seemed to me, and I think that unjustly so.
Well, I don't want to appear that way. All I'm saying is that if the only reason you believe something is because that's what everybody believes, then maybe you should look into why do they believe that. I mean, if you're gonna say that is your position, if you're gonna make a commitment on it, yes, I accept this, then you're doing it just on authority. And I can understand if you want to give somebody benefit of the doubt because they have expertise and you don't, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily commit to their position. How could you? You don't understand what their position is.
They would need to demonstrate that what the assertions that they're making is founded in reality with facts and evidence and research. You can appeal to them once they have provided ample proof that, okay, here's what I'm saying and here's why it's valid.
Now, here's a good example of that. I did not accept Big Bang cosmology for a long time because I couldn't understand how can people make these conclusions. How do you draw these conclusions on the limited data that you've got? And I didn't actually know what the data was. There was a time when I didn't know about cosmic redshift and the inflation of the universe and all of that. It took watching Carl Sagan to understand why anybody believed that. But then once I did understand, oh, that's why they believe that, now I accept that this is the most evident probability. But again, just because that was what the authorities said does not mean that that's what I agree with. I have to remain open to that until I understand why they believe that.
Okay, given the fact that it's our last ever show on Blog TV, I'm going to keep everyone in the call for as long as possible and see how many we can get in. I've got 2 more hopefully lined up, but we're currently joined by J.R. Chadwick. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. Can you hear me?
Perfectly, yes. Welcome to the show.
All right. Well, do you guys remember that when I called during Potholer 54's appearance, I told you guys about that that guy on the Christian radio who said that who seemed to think that the accumulation of hydrocarbons within people's bodies has something to do with global warming?
Thankfully, I was obviously able to put that out of my mind. Jog our memories and tell us what the update is.
Oh well, yeah. He said that Al Gore looked like he had been gaining weight. So if Al Gore thought that carbon was the problem, he would lose weight so he'd have less carbon in him. Well, I heard the same guy on the radio again. He was saying that homosexuals should not be allowed to donate blood because their blood is inherently tainted and is most likely contaminated with the AIDS virus.
Nice. Well, I guess me being of African descent, I'm also liable or susceptible to that too. Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't heard him speak very often, but
Thank God.
I don't think
I have to say, Joe, every time you come on the show, you never cease to amaze and entertain us. What do you do all day? Just search the internet for these weird and wacky people?
Actually, I haven't been on the internet very often. I've been very busy right now. I'm graduating from my college. I'm preparing to go to another college. I'm going to work for my parents. Got all sorts of stuff going on. But yeah, I do pick up weird stuff like this when I can. Sacramento is a very interesting place. It's a very diverse place where you have basically a bit of everything. Where you have these almost hippie-like hard left liberals, and then you have these large groups of there's something furling in the back in AronRa's background. They have this large group of Christian conservatives and like that, like when Eric Hovind himself came to my college about 4.5 years ago. So yeah, you can learn from about every group here.
Yeah, one of my best friends lives in Sacramento. I'm interested to see that you and he are in the same place. I got to hook you up.
All right, what is he? Does he go? Does he involved in any of the colleges around here?
Sort of. We'll talk later about that.
Sure thing. I do have to leave soon. As you can see, I'm in uniform. I'm part of a local Boy Scout troop as one of the adult leaders. I know what a lot of people think about the Boy Scouts, but it is a very diverse organization. I mean, like when I got my Eagle Scout as a scout myself, I was part of a very right wing, very Christian Christian troop, and if they had found I was an atheist, I wouldn't be an Eagle Scout now. But the troop I'm in now, it's I mean, they know I'm an atheist. We have scouts who are we have scouts who are atheists, and it hasn't caused me any problems. But though interesting though, we also had a scout master who was an admitted geocentrist.
Do you mind if I ask you a question quickly?
Sure.
I was just wondering, did you at any point, because I don't know, I was in the Cubs over here, but I don't know what it's like over there. Did you at any point have to take any kind of pledge or anything or promise with God in the title or God anywhere like that? Did you ever have to lie about your atheism to continue?
Well, I mean, we do say the Pledge of Allegiance, and that has under God in it, which has never really bothered me. And I guess there's the Scout Oath has the phrase has God in it, but again, I never really let that stuff that stuff doesn't really bother me.
He's a professional speaker.
Yeah, I my beginning public speaking course. So,
that's very interesting. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right. Oh. One thing I was curious about, this is a question directed mostly to AronRa, is
yes.
What do you do when you encounter if you're talking with someone who doesn't really know anything about anything, also known as a creationist, like the guy you were talking about earlier, Jason, and they try to steer the debate into something you don't know a lot about, like for you it might be cosmology because you're a biology major, or for me it's the other way around. I don't know too much about geology, or I think geology is one of my weakest subjects that come up often. What I usually do is I will try to say I'll admit that I don't know and try to explain the difference between asking a question for an honest search for knowledge versus asking a question that you don't think that anyone can answer, and then you can just paste God did it over it, and that makes you a genius. Or trying to connect the fact that I don't know means some sort of proof that you're right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know means I know. Yeah, exactly.
And do you have any advice for that? Because I've caught flack for that on some of my discussions, like when I was recorded without my knowledge by Nephilim Free a couple of years ago.
When they have these good discussions, they always move the burden of proof onto you. They assume the conclusion, theirs is the default, and God did it is somehow an explanation, despite the fact that it doesn't explain anything. And you need to call out that it doesn't explain anything. And by the way, one last thing you mentioned about Jason, although he wants to argue with me all these points, one of the moderators on the League of Reason, Australopithecus, that's his name. But the way Jason read it, as we were talking about pronunciation, Jason read it as Australopithecus.
Which may be more accurate. We do not know. Probably best we don't.
And when I was testifying for the State Board of Education, the guy that was just ahead of me was arguing about that there were no missing links like Archaeopetrix.
Archaeopetrix. What was he trying to say?
Archaeopteryx.
Oh, okay. I didn't even connect that.
So it's hilarious when you realize, oh yeah, you're greatly fluent on all the scholarship that you're talking about, and this is obviously the first time you've ever seen that word.
Okay, let's, because we're running short of time. I've got Michael who's joined us, and I've also got Ken who hopefully will be joining us soon. JR, do you need to go, or you have to stay with us for a while?
I can stay for about 15 more minutes maximum.
Okay. Michael, are you with us?
Yes, I am. AronRa, you bringing up the Westboro Baptist Church. That's a personal situation for me, given my last name. It's an interesting situation to deal with. Being in the atheist community and having the last name Phelps is just such an interesting dynamic in itself.
Is it coincidental?
Yes, it is. There's no relation whatsoever.
Okay. Yeah, well, I can see
does it come up often?
Yes, it does.
Does it get boring?
I actually get the comparison between that more than Michael Phelps.
Right.
Okay. I'm just trying to imagine what it must be like to go through life with the name of Hovind.
I can imagine, believe me. I've got a little taste of it.
Should we take a poll? Thumbs up if you think it's going to be worse to be called Hovind, and thumbs down if you think it's worse to be called Phelps. Thumbs up for Hovind being worse, thumbs down for Phelps being worse.
Don't feel too bad, Michael. Try being a black atheist at a barbecue of your family. It's really awkward.
I actually was in the Bible Belt for 3 years when I was in Texas, so it was kind of crazy. I actually served at Fort Hood for 3 years. So being in Killeen, really? I got like actually 3 death threats from a friend actually ousting me in the middle of a grocery store.
Wow. But to give you the good news, though, Michael, it looks as if people think Hovind is a worse surname to carry around in life than Phelps.
Well, I don't think people
carry that with you.
I don't think the general public has heard us are as aware of Hovind as they are of the Westboro Baptist Church, because the Westboro Baptist Church is just picked up by the media a lot more often.
Well,
but I know a couple of Phelps, but I have never met anyone called Hovind that is an immediate member of their family. Yeah,
and I would also guess that Westboro is more popular by that name than they are by Phelps.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have another point apart from the problems of inconvenient surnames, Michael?
The formation of a political party under the atheist community. What are your guys' views and opinions on that? Starting up the National Atheist Party.
Well, having just delivered a speech on that very subject in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, I petitioned to have the name changed. There was a vote, and they needed a 75%, not just 2/3 majority. They needed a 75% majority in order to make it. They got 70. So it is still, for at least the next 6 months, it is still the National Atheist Party, but there are a whole lot of people that are involved in that party that would rather that the name atheist be replaced with the name secular, that they would either call it the American Secular Party or the Secular American Party or something like that. I mean, but they want to change it to secular rather than atheist because we're looking for a larger collective, looking for more influence, and looking to pool with the Green Party and other and like-minded Democrats and things of that sort. It is far more reasonable, I think, to adopt that name. And frankly, while I like what the National Atheist Party is trying to do, it is, in my opinion, a hypocrisy.
Yes, it is.
To state that we demand separation of church and state, and yet we are presenting a political party that gives in its name a position on religion as if this was a requirement for membership, which they admit that it is not, and that it does not speak for all atheists. So for 2 reasons, or probably 3, that name just really doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree with what Man Hour Review says, that secularism isn't atheism, but I think it's a good name change still, because we're not just a group of atheists. We're a group of people who think the country should be run without such a focus on religion.
The Atheism Party would have to be a broad church, though, wouldn't it? Because atheism means no more than a lack. I don't understand how you could form a political party under an umbrella that is merely a lack of belief in a god or gods.
It's a sad thing that you have to look completely past the name to the ideal behind it, and you pretty much have to ignore the name. And the fact is that the people that are arguing to maintain the name, because there are those, they're all about that name, and it is as if they don't understand how that name is actually a hindrance. It's actually an impediment, and it's not justified. It's not. It does not allow us to seek the goals that we're looking for politically.
Not to mention having that conversation with Troy Boyle it's like it's like an uphill battle. Let's just put it that way. Troy basically is pretty adamant on the name.
I don't think so. I mean, I met with Troy Boyle, and I think he's more on my page now. Well, I say my page. I mean, there's I don't see, if we had a 70% majority. It's easy for me to say that most of the National Atheist Party, 3/4 of them, believe that the name should change, and that the arguments presented for why it should not change are feeble at best.
They are. The last time I talked to him was 6 months ago. So
there's a lot has changed. A lot has changed in the last 6 months.
What sort of arguments do you hear?
Well, and what it was, there's a video that it's really hard to understand. It was me sitting at a bar with the California state representative and Richard Carrier and a number of the other NAP people. We're just sitting around a table at a bar, and it's really hard to hear, but we're having this kind of discussion on this. And the arguments given for why it should maintain was because it's really kind of boiled down to, well, it's a cool name, and we've invested a lot in this, and we really like it, and that's it. However, there were other people that were there at the table, at least a couple of them, and this includes Flash Kellish, who's a prominent person in that party also, who were saying that originally they didn't agree with what I was suggesting, but then on further reflection, they've come up with other reasons why that we should make this change, why there should be a name change on this, and so they're more and more in my corner, and they're very supportive of this. And it's not about, again, it's not about me. None of this is about me. This is about, I want to affect a positive political advancement in this country, and I'm involved in the grassroots of something where that might actually happen. And so I'm hoping that it can.
Yeah, but the state level leadership in it is basically another thing we need to focus on. I mean, just think of New York State's one of the best examples. Their representative lives in Pennsylvania. I mean, having leadership that's basically has at least a place in New York State would at least make a precedence. I mean, having at least somebody from that state representing the state makes the leadership a little easier to, at least a little bit more copacetic would probably be the best way to put it.
This is where I think, again, that the name is probably a hindrance, because there are a lot of atheists who would agree largely with the platform and with the ideal behind it, but who will not sign on with the name. I mean, there's a lot of people that think that it brings in shades of remembrance for other things that they don't want to side with, calling it the National Atheist Party. It just is remindful of other elements that they don't want to be involved with. They see the hypocrisy that I do and the associations that I would, and they want to go in a different direction. I understand that. I want to make these improvements as well.
A lot of stigmatization around the word atheist, too. I mean, especially from the 60s.
You know, most atheists, and I say this everywhere I go, most atheists don't even realize they are atheists. They wrongly call themselves agnostic because they don't know what either of those words mean. And that was my problem.
Can I just realize something?
What's that?
It's just that I was thinking about this and thinking about what the other main parties you've got over there. So you've got the Democrats and you've got the Republicans. But now when you think about those words, generally you don't actually think about what's behind them. You don't think that the Democrats obviously, are for democracy, but nobody's going to go after them for so if you're anti the Democratic Party, it doesn't mean you're anti-democracy. And if you're against the Republican Party, it doesnn mean you're against the idea of having a republic. And but if you change the name to secularist, it could be the same thing. That just because you're against the secular party doesn't mean you want to have a religion-dominated country. But if you are against, atheists and the idea of having atheists be able to walk over other people's rights, you could be against that. And again, you could be an atheist and not a member of the party. And what would you call them? Like, if you've got people who are members of the Democratic Party are called Democrats, and members of the Republican Party are called Republicans, and members of the secular party would be called secularists. But if you're a member of the Atheist Party and you're a Christian, you go to you're a Catholic and you go to Catholic church, but you want to be a member of this party, people are going to call you an atheist. And every time you bring that up or it's brought up to you, you're going to have to explain, no, I'm not an atheist. I'm just believe in the cause. And then they're going to say, well, you mean you don't like Christian values? And it just gets damn confusing.
Well, the one thing I noticed is you can argue about, they always tell you never to talk about politics and religion, but I've noticed that you can talk a great deal about religion. It's when you get into politics that people get really crazy. And seriously, when I found myself in San Francisco having to give a speech on politics and I have to reveal my own political position to a degree, I know that everything is going to be taken and run with it. If they're going to examine everything in depth and they're going to blow things out of proportion. And if I say that the government has a role at all, if the government should do X, then my critics are going to say that I'm believing that the government should do everything A to Z. That's not what I said, but that's the way that they will perceive it. So, they'll yell at me because you can't speak for all atheists. I say that everywhere I go too. If I'm talking about politics is, and atheism, there's no point of relation because we have a lot of believe it or not, we have Republican atheists. They are a complete mystery, but they exist, and we have libertarian atheists, quite a lot of them, in fact. And this is a little disturbing too. But we have atheists in all these different areas, and the basic core philosophies are different. They just don't happen to agree with the idea of a God for different reasons. There are even religious atheists. So I always say there's no one of us can speak for all of us. Not on that point. But largely, most of the atheists represented in this country, fortunately, are rational empiricists. Or there was a word that Bionic Dance came up with that I fell in love with, but I can't remember it at the moment. Epistemist, I think it is, which is somebody that is without faith. I absolutely love that because that's the way I would rather describe myself. I'm somebody that is without faith, and for a lot of the atheists that I know and all of the conventions that I go to, that's what they're about. It's not about whether or not they believe in a God, but they believe in druidic religious worship or shamanism or something like that, because you can be atheist and have all these other beliefs. The issue is whether you have faith or not. And most of the atheists that come to the conventions and that I meet with are people who are not of faith, who reject faith and revere science. And so we need to be more descriptive of that. And those are the people that I say I'm only limited to those. I can speak for those people because we're much more finite in our opinions.
I'm going to take Jay next, but just before I do, remind people that this is the last show that we will be doing on Blog TV. So this is why I'm keeping everyone in. It's a sort of celebration of our last moments. But also, more importantly, if you scroll up above the banner, above the video window, you'll see on the banner links to where you can follow us, where information about where we will be on the next show will be given. For example, Facebook, you can link now. You have to do it now because in a couple of days' time, the Blog TV site will have gone forever. Facebook, obviously, a YouTube channel you're probably all familiar with. The website, many of you may not be familiar with that. Normally, all details about future shows are posted there. The only reason it wasn't on this occasion is because I left all my passwords at home and I couldn't log on to the website because I couldn't remember what the password was. So now's the opportunity to do it. If you're not following us on any of those, you ought to do so. Because, as I say, it might be some time before we have another banner. This one was made by YouTube user Cream, who's actually in the room, so thank you to Cream. Or we might have to see if we can twist your arm to do us a new one for our future venue, wherever that may be. Finally, also, you can follow us on Twitter at the capital T, capital H, capital E, dprjones, which may sound as if that's being arrogant of me, putting my name to it, but if you try and put Magic Sandwich Show, it's too long for Twitter, and you get Magic Sandwich which looks stupid. So I thought the dprjones looked a lot sexier. So there you are. Do that before it's too late. Jay, welcome to the show. What have you got for us?
Hi. About if you want the name changed to seculars than atheists, I think so. Atheists should keep it as atheists, because seculars, it's a political opinion. It is not some things you believe or not believe in God. In my opinion, I will vote for atheist name, because atheists, regardless of your opinion, political opinion, you are atheist because you don't believe of exist of God, or you don't believe there is enough evidence for that exists. So it is not related to each other.
Well, if you look at the
like I said, it's not related to each others. Yeah, it is not related to each others. Seculars, you can be atheist and seculars, but you cannot call atheists equal seculars. It doesn't.
Okay, I think Alfred wanted to come
because
back.
Because a lot of atheists.
Yeah, I think we got. Yeah. Alfred wanted to comment.
Well, you can be an atheist and be secular. By definition, secular is having nothing to do with religion. So by default, all atheists are secular to a degree.
Exactly.
Now, the name change is to avoid the stigmatization, like which I mentioned earlier. Is that a lot of people don't, and I personally try to stray away from the labeled atheist, just because for a large majority of people, it is such a knee-jerk reaction. It turns people off, and that it makes them see, well, okay, well, they're just excluding anyone that has any type of faith. It gives that perception, and it works the same way with when I tell people I'm a member of a Black atheist or Black free thinkers. It's okay, well, so it's just for African Americans? No, but it gives that perception. So having the label secular is more so, I guess, a honey treatment than vinegar, rather than, having to force people to look past that label and then go and search for the positions and what. Yes, exactly. It's inclusive. So I think it's really about trying to reach a broader audience than alienating those who might take a gander at what it's all about.
But I think we shouldn't hide behind seculars and atheists, because we are afraid from stigma or from people treat us badly or put label on us. We should go out as atheists to prove the people we exist and we are there, and we have a right to call ourselves the title that we want.
Well, yeah,
but it's all.
Should. Oh, go ahead.
But it's also based off of the geographical location in which you're in. The mindset of the people in which you're actually surrounded by play a huge precedent in it. I mean, the Bible Belt and upstate New York, for example, being from where I'm at now, are completely two different mindsets. I mean, one is more at least able to change with the times and be more understanding towards certain individuals, and one is basically just still stuck in its own dark ages because of a certain religious mindset. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to actually consider when you're thinking about the name of a group like this.
I didn't say it is easy to be face all this fact in reality, but we should in the end of the day, this is our reality. We should face that in reality. Later or soon, we should the world face there is atheists, and they should accept that we are not criminal, we are not do anything bad. So why we should hide ourselves behind another name like seculars? I am seculars, but this is my political opinion. that
Well, we were-
separated church from state or religion from state. This is my political opinion, not
Okay.
my atheist.
Let me explain something. We were talking about a political party. So in that respect, yes, we were only concerned about a political opinion. And not everyone that is in the National Atheist Party right now is atheist. There are actually some Christians in the National Atheist Party who want to be part of a secular political body, not one like the current Republicans are, which is deeply entrenched in religion. I have no problem with the word atheist, and I am out there, I'm open, outspoken atheist. But when it comes to politics, politics should not be exclusive or of religion. It shouldn't be a requirement of a religious opinion. And people who belong to the same political alignment that I do should not have to claim the same religious perspective that I have. And that's what we were talking
I totally agree with you
Thank you.
in this point. But
All right, on that note, I'm sorry, Jay, on that note,
political
on that
area is
note,
so wide. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
on that note, I am going to move on. Just invite all those people in the chat, please. Those I've made moderator, please make everyone a moderator, and I'll explain why in a few moments' time. JR, you wanted the last word, and then I'm going to have to move on.
Yes, I think one of the problems I find is that people tend to take an example. There are bad atheists out there. There's atheists that just behave very inappropriately, and people will take anecdotes like that and apply it to all atheists. Like I was hearing an anecdote of a professor that required his students to take a picture of Jesus Christ and step on it, and I just find that completely inappropriate for a college class. But and I also cringe because I'm thinking now people think that all atheists are going to be like that.
On that note, JR, again, given the time, I am going to move on, but thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
All right, thank you.
Bring that up though.
Michael, I'm going to give you your last word, and then again, I'm going to insist that we move on, given the fact we're 20 minutes past when we should finish. But I've got a few announcements that I need to make as well.
It's our last show, you know?
Last thing I'm going to say then. Well, not last thing I'm going to say, but just, okay. But with that, there are also amazing atheist professors that actually teach at colleges. I mean, upstate New York is a prime example of them. One of the professors up here is actually in charge of teaching a Bible class as a piece of literature and basically just dissecting it from that type of dialogue, which it's an amazing professor, and he's actually done amazing work with it.
You mean he's going to teach the Bible objectively, and they're going to let him live?
Yes, they do. He's actually one of the more profound atheists, and he's been on a few podcasts.
But how can you teach the Bible objectively when it's so riddled with inconsistencies?
Teach it as a piece of literature. It's a piece of nonfiction literature that you basically just dissect from that type of point of view.
When Zach Copeland went to trial over this, when a very obviously Christian senator was interviewing him and asked if he objected to teaching the Bible in school, and he said, no, the Bible should be taught in school as a work of literature. And the reaction that she had, that the Bible would be reduced to literature, was astounding. She rolled back and reeled in horror that it could be considered literature, as if people wrote it.
I mean, don't get me wrong; it's an amazing piece of work. I mean,
I don't think it is. I really don't think it is that great. It's not well written. It's full of inconsistencies. It's a terrible read.
But look at the place it's had in history.
I mean,
look at the place it's had in history. I mean.
Oh, in that regard, yes, but
in the place that it's had in history as a piece of literature, it's an just the historical prospect of it is something that should be looked at and be taught upon.
I would say that Vedic scriptures way outdo the Bible. I mean, on every level. I mean, Hinduism has the oldest, not just the oldest religion, but it's also the most flourished. I mean, it's the most detailed, it's the most intricate, it's the most developed. I mean, Hindu scriptures way outweigh anything the Bible could come up with. I mean, and as a Westerner, it's almost impossible to be a scholar of Hindu scriptures because it's so voluminous. there's so much there, and it's so in depth. I would think that any comparison of the Bible to Hindu scriptures, it's difficult to come away and say the Bible is any kind of interesting piece of work compared to Hindu scriptures.
Again, I'm going to just, as part of, I'm at a friend's house. It's discourteous of me to allow it to go on too much longer, and there's a couple of things I do need to say. But Michael, thank you. Do join us again wherever we may be in a couple of weeks' time. I'm going to remove you, and also, not Alfred. Alfred, I'm going to keep on.
Yay.
Patrick, I'm removing you. Again, your final chance to find out where we'll be by clicking on the Facebook link above. Remember that you can join us on Twitter at the dprjones, or details we've posted on the website, which is www.magicsandwichshow.com. All details, hopefully I'll have fun with passwords. This video may take longer than normal to get onto YouTube and our iTunes page and our Feedburner page, because, as I say, I don't have all the passwords. I can probably do it, but it's going to take me a bit more time because I'm not at home at the moment. Now, the reason that I moderated everyone is because all of you now have the capacity to kick people. And we're going to, this is the bombshell that we're going to end on. Start kicking, and the last man standing will get listed in the what do you call it, Hall of Fame in the description when this video is subsequently posted. And the kick fest has started on this bombshell. Well, we'll wait to see who's the last man standing. As soon as we get the last man, we will end the show. Thank you all very much indeed.
Someone kicks me out, and I will come to your house personally and shit on your doorstep.
I think I'm the only person that can't be kicked. Oh, they're dropping like flies. Whilst this is happening, can I thank Tony very much for doing the technical work behind the scene. We will let you know where we're going to be in a week's time, actually.
Yeah,
how many have we got left?
How do you kick someone?
Someone's still...
Yeah. That reminds me of the Hunger Games, the first girl that was sitting by the campfire. It says, "No, don't kill me." Alfred Mimms, I finally realized why your name sounds familiar.
One second, let's just get the kicking thing and then okay. Tony can end the show. There's still 70 people, come on. Oh, they're all guests, that's why.
And the same person that said, "How do you kick somebody?" is now singing Gloria Gaynor.